Hello? This is strange. I can see you, but I can't see your surroundings. Can you see mine?
How you get so big getting food of this kind?
Okay, here we go. Several vlogs in the making. Here is the video where I begin talking about the Force bond between Kylo and Rey. I am really intimidated to talk about this topic, so let's just get into it before I think about it more than I already have. Also, be sure to click on the thing to see the videos that led up to this one, because it might help explain some of the points I'm going to just brush over. So The Last Jedi rocked the Star Wars world with this concept of Force Skype, or Force timing, if you prefer. Snoke claims that he had found a way to bridge the consciousnesses of... Consciousnesses? Consciousness is... Snoke claims that he found a way to bridge the minds of Kylo and Rey so that they could speak to each other even though they were in different parts of the galaxy. Snoke claims that he caused this, and yet this final Skype call occurred at the end of the film, long after Snoke was dead. So, what is going on here exactly? Well, I think it's one of three different possibilities. 1. Snoke isn't dead. Which, actually, nope, Snoke is totally dead, so sorry, that's not even a real one. 2. Snoke was lying and or incorrect. He could have been lying about creating the connection as a way to manipulate Kylo so that he thought the bond that was going on between him and Rey wasn't really a thing. Or Snoke in his arrogance could have honestly thought that he was doing it and just not have been. But that doesn't really make for a very interesting video. So, option 3. Snoke created the ability to do the Force Skype, but he was playing off of a bond that was already there. So, he didn't create the bond between Rey and Kylo, but he did take advantage of it and manipulate it, which is why a bond could exist after Snoke's death. This is the theory that I think is more likely anyway, and not just because it actually makes for a video, but basically my theory is that there was always just this base bond between Kylo and Rey. But once they had experienced this way of communicating, they found a way to continue to do so on their own without Snoke's involvement. Now, some of you may be wondering what is a Force bond, and that is a really good question. A Force bond is a term for when two people have a powerful connection within the Force. This can help them communicate or sense when another person is in danger. So, for example, in The Empire Strikes Back, Leia could sense Luke hanging out at the bottom of Cloud City and was able to use their Force bond in order to find them. Or, in The Force Awakens, she was able to sense when Kylo killed Han Solo. In the case of Princess Leia, of course, she is sensing the danger to members of her own family, but Force bonds can exist outside of family members as well. In Legends canon, which is all of this stuff, plus a lot more, you would see bonds between a teacher and a student, where they could go as far as to feel the actual pain of one another, or even be in danger of sharing the same injuries. And Legends Luke had such a strong Force bond with his wife Mara Jade that they could fight in such perfect synchronization because they always knew what move the other person was going to make. Now, does that sound like anyone else we know? So how did this bond between Kylo and Rey start? Well, it could be destiny. As Snoke says, darkness rises in the light to meet it. And I do think that this is a pretty major factor, but I don't think it's the only one. I think they also have very similar struggles for identity and a very similar need for validation, and that there's a few events that may have led to them forming this bond as well. Let's look back at when they met in The Force Awakens, specifically the interrogation scene. This scene is more important than it gets credit for. Because of the world of marketing, we all knew that Kylo Ren looked like Adam Driver. So when Kylo takes his mask off for the first time, most people were like, "LOL, nice hair, buddy. How do you keep it straight in that helmet?" But assume you hadn't seen the behind-the-scenes stuff, pretend you didn't even know who was cast in the film, and now there's this Vader wannabe running around. You might be expecting a grizzled and scarred man beneath that mask, but instead you find a young and highly not deformed stud. And this is an important note between the characters. Understand that Rey has lived her whole life on a desert planet surrounded by non-humans or really wrinkled up humans, and now suddenly Adam Driver is looking at her. And I don't mean to go on a fangirly swoon fest. I mean, really, just think about this for a minute. Rey composes herself really well. Here's this attractive but absolutely dangerous man throwing rapey threats at her while she's strapped to a chair. There's a lot of thoughts that would be going through her head. She thinks she's lost and on her own with no one coming for her, and Kylo is using all of this to his advantage. We've seen him use his abilities to rip information away from Poe already, and we saw how painful this was. Rey not only blocks Kylo's mental probing, but she reflects it back at him and pulls his own fears out of his head. This is something that catches Kylo by surprise and infuriates Snoke. So what happened here? I think it's possible that Rey is stronger than she knows, but I think it's also part their destiny link that allows her to easily go into his mind and read what's going on. And maybe that sounds like a cop-out, but I guess to me it just makes a lot of sense. The Force has awakened in Rey as a response to Kylo. There would be an interconnectedness. The Force isn't an XP bar in a game meter. The Force is an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds them and binds them. We've seen the Chosen One. We've seen how the Force can flow through one being with a destiny and how that destiny can shape a galaxy. Here, I think we're seeing the Force flow through two people, a combined destiny. What that is, I don't know exactly, but it would make sense that there is an inherent connection there. What becomes of that connection is still something that they would have to foster, but after seeing The Last Jedi, I truly believe there's more going on here than convenient writing for Rey's power. And on that note, let's skip to the saber fight at the end of The Force Awakens, because that's another scene that a lot of people have taken issue with. How could Rey have beaten Kylo? There's the superficial answer of he's injured, she's got some experience with her bow staff, he doesn't want to kill her and offers to train her instead. But there could be something more going on here. And it's not about training, it's about sensing. When she taps into the Force, she can feel what he's going to do. Not because she's a Mary Sue with the Force, but because they can sense each other. Now, the logical rebuttal to this is, why doesn't Kylo have this ability too, and therefore why doesn't their fight go on for a longer period of time? I think it's part surprise, but I think Kylo would also have a negative impact from his training. Kylo would be thinking the same thing that a lot of people in the movies were thinking. This shouldn't be happening. Rey shouldn't be beating me. Kylo's training, which has taught him what is and isn't possible, would be hindering him, while Rey is operating under pure instinct. Kylo couldn't believe it, and that is why he failed. Now again, I don't know if this Force bond would have formed as a result of these two encounters, or if it's something that just would have always been there because of destiny, and that their meeting was just a catalyst for this bond to become active. Again, this is just my guess. I'm kind of going out in speculation territory here. They might have some control over it, albeit maybe only to lean into the connection or to repress it, but I think it's this bond that Snoke manipulates throughout The Last Jedi. Snoke saw the conflict in Kylo about his father, but also his conflict about Rey. Snoke played their bond like an instrument so that they could see each other. I don't believe that Snoke was lying about that. But I also don't think Snoke could have done this without the Force bond being there in the first place. Snoke created nothing. He only enhanced something between two less experienced Force users than he. Snoke's goal was to manipulate Rey into giving herself up to Kylo, and he also hoped that this whole process would fix Kylo's split soul that happened after he killed Han Solo. Snoke has grand plans for manipulating this bond, but I think the real proof that Snoke was only manipulating something that was already there as opposed to creating something comes at the end of the film. When Kylo is at the base on Crate holding the Force projected dice, and he looks up to see Rey looking at him from the Falcon door, and she closes the door in his face. This is clearly another instance of their ability to see and talk to each other through the Force, and it's after Snoke is dead. It seems that they knowingly or unknowingly found a way to keep this Force Skype going without Snoke. And I think this is partly possible because they're already pretty close in location as opposed to being parsecs apart, but I think that this is also something they could continue to grow and develop. But I'm at time, so we're gonna have to finish this in part 2. In part 2, I'm going to break down the specific Force Skype calls between Kylo and Rey and address what was going on in each scene and how they're kind of changing their feelings about each other throughout this process. As always, please leave it in the comments if you think I'm completely wrong about something. I always want to know your guys' theories. I love talking with you. Please follow us at Port Haven Forums and visit us at port-haven.com. And until next time, keep it real and fly casual.
Now cooking can be fun.